you will listen to me and apologize, ape!
Imagine returning home after months of service, secretly planning to surprise your mother at the cafe in your hometown, only to walk in and see a white man towering over her, shouting, while she holds her cheek red with pain. That's exactly what happened to Deshaun Moore, a black man who thought he was stepping into breakfast, not violence. In a single moment, the town's most feared bully crossed a line he could never take back, and Deshaun realized the woman being humiliated in front of everyone wasn't just another victim. She was his mother. The shop, Sunrise Corner Cafe, was already busy that morning, the low hum of conversations mixing with the clatter of cups and plates. Locals from Ridgeway Crossing filled the space the way they always did. Quiet, cautious, careful not to draw attention to themselves. Everyone knew why. Fear had learned how to sit comfortably in this town. The elderly black woman, Evelyn Moore, stepped inside just after sunrise. She moved slowly but with dignity, her coat neat, her posture straight, her eyes calm. She greeted the cashier softly and made her way down the narrow aisle, searching for the table she'd been told to wait at. This morning mattered to her. Someone had asked to meet her here, arranged anonymously. She didn't know who, only that it felt important. A white man, Richard Halverson, sat near the center of the shop, sprawled across his chair like he owned the place. His boots were stretched far into the aisle, blocking the path. He did it deliberately. He always did. People usually walked around him. No one ever asked him to move. As Evelyn passed his table, her coat brushed lightly against his leg. Barely a touch. No stumble. No reaction. She didn't even realize it had happened. She continued walking and took her seat a few tables away, folding her hands in her lap as she waited. That was when the chair scraped loudly behind her. "Hey!" Richard barked, his voice sharp enough to cut through the room. Every conversation died instantly. "You think you can just walk into me like that?" he shouted, standing up. "You got some nerve." Evelyn turned slowly, confusion crossing her face. "I'm sorry," she began gently. He didn't let her finish. Richard closed the distance in seconds and slapped Evelyn across the face with brutal force. The sound cracked through Sunrise Corner Cafe. She fell sideways from her chair, hitting the tile floor hard. A sharp gasp rippled through the room, but no one moved. No one stood. No one spoke. Evelyn lay there stunned, one hand pressed to her cheek, which was already turning red. Her eyes shimmered with pain and shock as she tried to sit up. Richard stood over her, chest puffed out, breathing hard. "Apologize," he demanded loudly. "You don't touch me without apologizing." He looked around the room, daring anyone, to challenge him. No one did. Have you ever seen someone slap an elderly black woman in public for absolutely nothing? What would you do if that woman was your mother? Before we go further, what city or country are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where you're tuning in from. And if you believe mothers deserve respect, safety, and justice, especially the elderly ones, then smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc. Years of bullying had taught Ridgeway Crossing the same lesson over and over. Silence was safer. Evelyn's hand trembled against her face as she struggled to her knees. She hadn't come here for this. She hadn't come here to be humiliated. She was just waiting to meet someone. Someone she didn't yet know was already on the way. And at that exact moment, the door behind them began to open. The door opened with a soft chime. A tall, muscular black man, Deshaun Moore, stepped inside Sunrise Corner Cafe, filling the doorway without trying to. He wore a fitted dark jacket, plain jeans, and boots worn from real use, not fashion. His shoulders were broad, his posture straight, his movements measured. The kind of man who didn't rush because he didn't need to. He paused just inside the entrance. Years of training kicked in instantly. The room was too quiet, too stiff, too afraid. Deshaun's eyes scanned the shop in seconds. Chairs pushed back, faces pale, bodies frozen. Then he saw it. Richard standing aggressively over someone seated low, voices raised, dominance on display. His jaw tightened. He took a step forward. That's when he saw her hand, pressed to her cheek, shaking, red. His vision narrowed. Mom. The word came out low, flat, controlled. But everything inside Deshaun detonated. This wasn't how this morning was supposed to go. He'd planned this carefully, months away. No calls, no warning. He'd arranged the meeting through a friend so she wouldn't know it was him. Just breakfast, just time. Just a moment to see her smile when she realized her son was home. Instead, Deshawn was walking into violence. He moved closer, placing himself between Richard and Evelyn without touching either of them. "Step away," Deshawn said calmly. Richard turned slowly, annoyance flashing across his face, then hesitation. The size of the man behind him registered, the stillness, the confidence. For a split second, fear flickered, then arrogance took over. "Mind your business," Richard snapped. "Turn around and face front before I smack you too." A few people gasped. Deshawn didn't even look at him. He turned fully to Evelyn on the floor and crouched beside her, his large frame shielding her without a word. His voice softened. "Are you okay, Mom?" She tried to smile, tried to downplay it. Years of survival habits, years of knowing what anger like that could bring. He looked directly into her eyes. "Did he touch you?" The shop was silent enough to hear breathing. Evelyn swallowed. Her hand stayed pressed to her cheek. "Yes," she whispered. That was all Deshawn needed. Behind him, Richard scoffed and opened his mouth to keep ranting, to keep asserting himself, to keep proving he could do whatever he wanted in Ridgeway Crossing. He never finished the sentence. Because the moment the confirmation left Evelyn's lips, Deshawn stood up, and the calm disappeared. The white man was still talking. He didn't even notice the shift at first, the way the air changed, the way the room seemed to pull inward. He was mid-rant, spitting out insults, half-formed justifications, still convinced his voice alone could bend everyone into submission. "I already told you," she distressed. The punch from Deshawn cut him off. It landed square across Richard's face with a crack so sharp it echoed off the walls. His head snapped sideways and his body staggered back, shock replacing arrogance in an instant. Before he could regain his balance, another punch followed, then another. Each one precise, each one brutal, no wild swinging, no wasted motion. Training, control, years of discipline unleashed in seconds. Richard collapsed to the floor, blood spilling from his mouth and nose as he tried to crawl away. The room erupted in gasps, chairs scraping backward as people finally moved, but no one tried to stop it. No one dared. Deshawn stood over him, breathing steady, eyes locked, fists clenched. "How dare you touch her?" he said, voice low and deadly. "How dare you insult her?" Richard raised his hands weakly, panic flooding his face. "Please, please stop," he cried, his words thick with blood. "I didn't know, I swear. I didn't know she was your mother." Another punch came down. Not full force this time, but enough to make the message clear. "That doesn't matter," Deshawn said coldly. He stepped back then, not because he was done, because he chose to be. Richard sobbed openly now, his body curling inward, his confidence shattered in front of the same people he'd terrorized for years. For the first time, the power dynamic had reversed, and everyone could see it. Deshawn turned back to his mother. She was standing now, leaning on a table, still shaken but upright. Their eyes met. She didn't scold him. She didn't praise him. She just nodded slightly, the smallest acknowledgement, filled with fear, love, and relief all at once. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Someone had finally called the police. Deshawn raised his hands slowly, showing no resistance, no panic. He adjusted his jacket, wiped the blood from his knuckles on his jeans, and waited. Richard remained on the floor, trembling, whispering apologies no one cared to hear anymore. Outside on Maple Hollow Road, the sirens grew louder. Inside Sunrise Corner Cafe, something had broken. Not just a man, but the fear that had protected him for far too long. The sirens stopped outside the shop. When the officers entered, they took in the scene in seconds. Blood on the floor. The white man injured and panicking, the elderly black woman shaken, and the black man standing still, hands visible, calm and composed. The other officer turned to Deshawn. "You! Hands where I can see them! What happened here?" Deshawn complied instantly, calm, still. "That man struck my mother," he said evenly. I intervened. Richard tried to interrupt, shouting excuses through blood and swelling. "Quiet," the officer snapped. "You'll get your turn." Witnesses began speaking at once, overlapping, nervous, relieved. "He slapped her first. He's been bullying everyone. We saw it." An officer pointed to the cameras. "Pull the footage." They watched it together. No drama, no commentary. The slap was clear. The room went silent. One officer turned to Deshawn. "You're military?" "Yes, Navy SEAL. That changed the posture, not the outcome." "Thank you for cooperating," the officer said. "Step aside." They turned to Richard. "Hands behind your back. You're under arrest for assault on an elderly woman." Cuffs went on. No debate. No delay. Richard protested weakly, his voice cracking, his power gone. No one spoke for him. No one looked at him. As he was lifted to his feet and led outside, the room finally breathed. Deshawn walked back to his mother and knelt beside her. She looked at him closely now. Really looked. Her eyes widened. Her hand trembled as she reached for his face. You did this on purpose, she whispered. He nodded. I wanted to surprise you. Tears filled her eyes as she pulled him into a tight embrace. Sunrise Corner Cafe erupted, not in applause, but in relief. People began speaking, thanking her, thanking him, admitting how long they'd been afraid. As the police car from the Ridgeway Crossing Police Department drove away, the town felt different. Fear had been arrested, and Evelyn finally had her son back. If you believe no black woman, especially an elder, should ever be assaulted and left alone in silence, hit that like button and subscribe to Story Arc for more stories that expose injustice.